Hey guys, gonna make a quick video here going over how to push, how to defend a push. Hopefully touch up on some of the areas where you're rusty on, bring these things together as a whole. Now the very first thing is just the concept of what a push is, why we're pushing. Uh, the reason that we're doing a push is to get ground, to get in through these choky areas that can be dangerous to go through without using an Uber or without a significant advantage. Now when we do push, it's going to look almost the same every single time. So I will talk about in an Uber versus Uber situation with the enemy team close. So we're imagining that the enemy team is holding in this area and we're pushing into mid on this point. Now I'm going to try and speak in broad terms so that all of this information will be applicable to every single push we do on any map. Uh, Now if the enemy team is close, we're going to take Rosie in first. Her job is going to be to create space to air blast uh, the enemy team back into a disadvantageous position. So basically, if they're standing right here, they have the rock for cover. They also are avoiding this valley, and they can really spam us out as we come in. If Rosie comes in, pushes them back, she can push them into this more vulnerable area further away from the cover and on the low ground. And where IT can also attack it as well. So it's more exposed here. As soon Termy's going to come in with Rosie, literally just far enough behind her so that if there's any sticky traps or anything that they det on Rosie, they're not going to explode Termy as well. So literally, we're talking like one person space behind. Maybe like a 1 second delay on Termy coming in. Termy's first job and only job is to zone the enemy out. So he's going to, imagine the enemy standing, right here after Rosie's got them, and they've just popped Uber, but it's going to be more players than just one or two, or whatever, wherever they are. Jeremy's first job is going to be to throw damage around so that they are forced to take cover, so that they have to back off to take cover or die. His job is to force the medic to flash his Uber around. Each flash wastes about 1 second worth of the Uber. Um, so if that medic is flashing around, and we are not flashing around as much, then we'll have a more advantageous Uber. Or if we can just make them flash around and we've popped first, we can have our Ubers end at the same time, and then we'll be ready to deal some major damage to them. Now, so Termy's going to be doing that. Snapshot's job is going to be to come in just right behind Termy, and he's going to provide the biggest zone of control. He's going to come in fully buffed 450, gun spinning as he comes around into the fight, and basically anyone who's in his range is going to have to back up. So he can come in, he can have cover, but still provide a lot of pressure and force the team to give up a good position and run away. And when you're running away, it's easy to clean up kills without chasing and end up in a good position. Now, I guess one thing I should have said, unless we're really, really pressed for time and we're desperate, we won't be pushing in a 9 versus 9 fight. We'll wait for a pick. We'll wait for at least one person of their team to go down, so we're looking at 8 versus 9. So if we assume everything's equal in our Ubers, when we get out of the fight, we'll have a man advantage and we'll be able to be stronger. Now, just a few more things to think about with the combo. We have to remember to prioritize our targets well. So first of all, we need to call focuses as a team so that Termy, Rosie, and Snapshot know to shoot at the same person. Snapshot does damage really quickly, and with a few stickies or that person's getting bursted down on fire, they're going to go down quickly. So if anyone's ever vulnerable or close, we need to make sure we're calling that. And we need to prioritize our targets well. One thing I find we do that's a mistake is we prioritize the medic. And the medic is only a priority in the situation where they have an Uber advantage. If I've died and they have full Uber or near full Uber, then that medic is is absolutely a high priority, so they don't get a point for free. But if their medic doesn't have Uber, he's almost one of the lowest priorities because he's not a threat. We need to prioritize our threats. So imagine we're running in and the medic is standing right here and he's taunting, and the heavy or the scout or anyone is right here. This scout is priority number one. We can't, if we chase that medic, we try and get him, we're just going to get cleaned up by whoever's close. We need to make sure we kill the threats to our combo, or the threats to our teams first. And damage classes, you know, we've held pushes without a medic. We haven't held pushes without, you know, demo heavy. So it's really important that those guys mind their positioning to stay alive, and it's really important that those guys focus damage classes. Soldier, demo, heavy, all these guys are huge threats to us. And the last thing to think about as we are trying to fight is we have to remember we want to come in, get through the choke, and get into a good position. We want to be standing somewhere where we're able to fire at whoever we need without taking damage from the whole team, and have something advantageous about that, whether it be high ground, whether it be a reasonable cover. So for example, if we're pushing into this point, and this is a good place to run in and stand. Up here, these are all good places to fight from. We're on the high ground. We have the ability to block off this left area, or come over here, block off the right, or retreat into IT. This is very strong. This area here suddenly is a lot weaker because we're on the low ground. They have the ability to come in on us from cover on both sides or from the mid. So, you know, if we're rushing mid, we put ourselves in a very disadvantageous situation. Now, that's about what the combo should be thinking about. With the flank, it's really simple. In a perfect situation, flank wins the fight on their flank and is able to come in at the same time as our Uber and clean up. So say the combo's there and they just pop Uber. You don't really want to deal with that if there's anyone else to fight. So she's going to try and clean up from cover, from that, clean up, and then as soon as the Uber is done, or as soon as it's clear out here, see what spam you can fire into the combo. Once again, shooting any players who aren't un-Ubered, and as soon as that Uber is over, being ready to get in there, focus down some of their main classes, and win the fight. Also, once again, holding position. Just because we're pushing in doesn't mean we want to give up IT. So we want to make sure that when we're pushing in on the flank is still watching flank. So that will be flank 1. Every map has 2 flanks, and it'll be the exact same thing here. Try and get in and get into the fight at the appropriate time. So we don't want to run out this door and then Uber heavy and we're dead. So just be careful that when we're coming out of a choke, we're ready, prepared to see enemies, and prepared to fall back and wait if we have to without giving up this flank area. That's an ideal situation. A lot of times in our match, what happened was the flank would still be fighting in the flank when we were pushing in. And while that's not ideal, that is fine. As long as the flank is contested, we're not giving up, we eventually win the fights in these areas, then that's the most important part. And what I'll really quickly go over while we're talking about it is defending a push. In an Uber versus Uber situation, they come in, they're going to try and do exactly what I had just said. Pyro, demo, lead the way. Heavy's going to come in and try and gain ground. What we want to do is, first, we got Rosie trying to deny them from gaining the ground without dying. So something like pushing them back here and here, and as soon as they're like wise onto her, getting out into cover. Snapshot, we'll use our holding points for this point as an example. Snapshot ideally standing right here. When they push in and they're Ubered, he's not really going to do much good standing here taking fire. He can easily just back up, make sure if IT's clear, watch if their demo or pyro or whatever rushes forward, and then come back in and just mow down anybody who's not Ubered and force them to give up this position. They're going to want to get up here or get up there, and Snapshot can deal with that. Same thing, Termi, When they Uber, Termi should be falling way back. And just throwing stickies to make sure that they have to flash their Uber around and doing anything he can to make sure that he's not going to die. Remember the point of this. They want to get a good ground. They want to get in on us. So find an area where we can fight, where we can contest the ground that they're going to want to take. So for example, right up here, Termi has cover and he has the ability to shoot stickies at that area and come over here and fight the hallway if need be. Same thing for, the flanks are going to be a little different. If they're pushing in, then what they're going to want to have is a soldier scout rush in here. And if we have just Yankee in here and the soldier and scout rush in, she should be in a position where she's able to come back to Snapshot here. And Snapshot will be able to turn the tide of that battle. So all of a sudden, it's a soldier and a scout fighting a soldier and a heavy. That doesn't go well for them. Sometimes when they push, it's better to just fall back to your secondary choke. So for example, call this your first choke right here. And then if they're pushing in, this would be the secondary choke. We got this that we can fight for. So we can give them a little bit of ground, but then not let them come in for free. And sometimes we just want to go all the way back and then push back in and clean them up. Let them waste their ammo coming in. Let them waste their Uber and then come back in with our own Uber to push them out of the point and get kills on them now that they have no ammo, maybe low health from our spamming them out, and no Uber. So I think that's about everything. We'll talk a little bit more about this